Well, the scandal surrounding former House Speaker Dennis Hastert continuing to unfold. Hastert is now scheduled to be arraigned on Thursday at a federal courthouse in downtown Chicago. He's accused of lying to the FBI in an effort to cover up some hush money he may have paid a former associate.
Was it $3 million?
$3.5 million, right. I think.
Harvard law professor Alan Dershowitz told our very own J.D. Hayworth on Newsmax Prime Friday that this indictment just smells. Take a listen.
He's both a perpetrator and a victim. That is, he may have been a perpetrator 30, 40 years ago, but has been a continuing victim of a blackmail scheme. I think there are two lessons to be learned from this. First, never, ever, ever pay blackmail. They'll always get you. The person who you pay it to always owns you, and now the federal government owns you. Second is, don't allow these structuring statutes to be used in the way the federal government uses them. Structuring statutes were intended to prevent money laundering, to prevent drug dealing, to prevent income tax evasion. Here, Hastert is not charged with doing anything illegal. Paying hush money is not illegal. He didn't want anybody to know about it, so he took money out in small amounts so the banks wouldn't report it. That is not within the heartland of what this statute was intended to cover. And then to have an indictment which essentially reveals that which Hastert was trying to conceal puts the government in the position of essentially being part of the blackmail. And it's just not right. It's an abuse of prosecutorial discretion to use the federal government structuring statute to try to go after somebody who was trying to solve a rather personal problem with the statute of limitations has long expired. But the federal government has a remarkable lack of success in these kinds of cases. They have about a 95% win rate in ordinary cases. But when they go after politicians, whether it be Tom DeLay, or whether it be the governor, the senator from Alaska, or several other of these high-profile cases, they lose them all. And I suspect they're going to lose this one. Maybe they'll get him on failing to tell the truth to the FBI, but there again, he was just trying to protect his own secrecy and his own privacy. The question is not whether he committed any crimes. Technically, he may have committed a structuring crime. The question is whether the prosecutors abused their discretion by using federal charges to go after this private event that occurred years ago, and as you put it so well, in that respect, he was really a victim, if the story is true, of extortion. I think we have to presume everybody innocent. We have to presume him innocent. You have to presume the young man innocent of the extortion charge. You have to presume Hastert innocent of the initial charges of sexual misconduct. Let the evidence be produced. But this is not what the federal law was intended to cover, and I think it's abuse of prosecutorial discretion.
Spoken like a true defense attorney there.
Yeah, but it's so hard to do in this day and age when people immediately, when you find out someone's been charged or faces charges for something, we immediately, unfortunately, a lot of people presume that person's guilty. Already his alma mater, like stripping him, and he hasn't even been convicted of those charges.
Convicted, hasn't even made his arraignment in court. All we know is an indictment, and as JD told us when we were talking about this on Friday, you can indict a ham sandwich. That was his statement, exactly. But, I'm still waiting to see some sort of strong
public statement
from Hastert. Get to see that. Maybe at his arraignment on Thursday. Meantime, Newsmax analyst and National Review columnist John Fund also weighed in on the indictment.
Yeah, Fund was with Newsmax TV. Steve Malmsberg, take a listen to what he had to say.
Well, the real issue here is, does this law really make sense if it's not involving drug laundering or something that's clear criminal activity?
Right.
Common sense, prosecutorial discretion enters into it. Hastert actually passed this law as Speaker of the House.
Right.
It's part of the Patriot Act. So now he's being indicted on it. I guess the principle here is this. If the FBI actually knew that he had structured those payments to evade the $10,000 limit, you're Speaker of the House of Representatives, you're a lawmaker. I guess you have to be held to a higher standard. So even though the law is an ass, in this case the law also has to be enforced, and Dennis Hastert has to pay the consequence.
What do you think about what John Fund just said there? People who are elected to office, especially the Speaker of the House, you should be held to a higher standard.
I think that's a given, because once you put yourself out there, well, you know this. I mean, journalism school, same thing. I mean, you are a public figure.
Right.
Always will be a public figure. Even for us, as news anchors, and same thing. Once we leave, we're still considered a public figure. You put yourself out there
Now,
for scrutiny.
we know the indictments out there. A lot of times more of the documents are released at these court hearings, so we'll see what comes of that. Again, Thursday, we're now hearing that Dennis Hastert will be arraigned in a federal courthouse in Chicago on these charges that he lied in the FBI, apparently to cover
Do
up.
you think he's going to speak?
If he's innocent and I were his attorney, and I'm not an attorney, I would say get out in front of the microphones and get out in front of the story. I mean, as a journalist, I think that's always your desire, is to see these folks face these allegations head on.
Yeah, I agree with you. Of course, I was trained as a journalist too, so I agree. Still more to come. You're watching Newsmax Now.